Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Rhee and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset. All right, welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I am Coach David Syvertsen. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. and Coach Sam Rhee. And we have a repeat guest sitting in the between us. Really pumped to have her back. I promised she was going to come back. I also promised I was going to have Sam here this time because last time I screwed up some of the back end stuff and it was proven that Sam is all the brains behind the Herd Fit Podcast. I'm just the ugly face that stands next to him and talks about CrossFit. But guys, we are bringing back Kristy Link, a longtime CrossFit friend and coach, and even in some ways a mentor, which we talked about last time. She's a personal trainer out of Clifton and one of the coaches in New Jersey on the CrossFit side that has just been around the longest, has the most experience, the most things to share. And she did a great job last time we had her on. So great that we're having her back on. And we're going to have a couple of different things to talk about. But Kristy, before we get into that, just welcome back. How are you? What's new?
Thanks for having me back. I feel like I need an introduction by you like every morning I wake up because I just feel so like awesome after a day.
A nice hype person.
Yeah, big hype man. Everything's good. Yeah, I've been through some, changes as far as business and as a coach, and it's been September since I sold the gym. So I feel like I found a little more of a groove now, but yeah, everything is going good. Definitely a different change of pace, but all good things.
Yeah, I mean, we've been through some changes here, and I do feel a big change like that, whether it's selling the gym or starting a new thing, like you have to go through the calendar to really feel like, all right, this is now like my new flow.
Yeah,
it's not a few months. Like you got to go through a fall, a winter, a spring, a summer, and kind of find your flow. So I'm sure you're still kind of in that process.
Yeah,
I mean, we still
100%.
are. Yeah.
Yeah, and in my mind, I thought it would happen in like a month. The one thing I'm like, how come I don't feel like I'm on a groove? Yeah. But yes, it always takes longer. So I'm excited to see you that 1 year mark, wherever, because I did say, give myself a year,
Yep.
see where I am in a year. If I need to change things, I'll make changes. But I do want to give myself that full year of trying something new and, working in a different niche and seeing how it goes.
I love it. Now, Sam, you know of Brazen.
Yeah.
And that's really like Kristy's back. That's like her baby, right? And she did such a good job growing that. Haven't had as many conversations with Kristy, but what are your memories of Brazen? Because you started off Bison about 11 years ago, and that's when Brazen, like, I just remember looking at them, the purple and the orange, just loud and strong and really intense at competitions. But this is the brains behind it,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, and I want to just like. So what were your reflections on Brazen back in the day?
Well, they sort of were the leaders in terms of what CrossFit was epitomizing back in the day. They were big. They were, like you said, brash. Like that was their name, right?
Yeah.
So they went big for everything you saw them in. Like you knew who the Brazen athletes were. It wasn't like they were sitting in the corner eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and being quiet. Like these guys were very known. And the Brazen athletes that had come over, like there were a few, like Dan Greenberg used to.
Yeah, he's here, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Like he was here this morning, right? Those guys always like I would say the benchmark for those guys where they lifted incredibly well. Like I remember the first time Dan Greenberg came and he was like squatting insane amounts and I was just like, whoa. And then like I remember after the workout, maybe it was a bench or something, I don't remember. He was doing more and I was like, what is this? And he's like, that's dessert. And I was like, what the F is dessert? And he's like, that's a Brazen thing where we just like finish off with like 20 reps at a lighter weight or something, the same movement.
extra.
Just a little extra. And I was like, dude, that is not tasty. That's a very untasty dessert.
We're better than others.
But it's just great because you've actually progressed to where we will be someday, right? Because sooner or later, I would assume maybe at some point, we're going to be ex-gym owners.
Yep.
We're going to sell for like $1 billion
Yep.
and move on to our next phase of our career. So it's like, it would be really nice to pick your brain and sort of feel like what that transition was like.
Yeah. And, you guys were always like the staple of the, OG CrossFits too in our minds. So I'm consider you guys right up there with your feelings for us. We felt right back at you guys and like 908 and, CrossFit Hoboken. And there's a couple that just really stood out in the beginning and did a good job and really taught movement well and were passionate about it. And, they're still around because of that, and unfortunately, a lot of CrossFit gyms are not because they really lacked that. So kudos to you guys also.
Now, a big part of owning a gym, the Brazen and Bison, all this stuff, right? It stems from coaching. At the end of the day, that is like the secret sauce, right? You could talk about programming, community, and those are all huge components to it. But the coaching component to you, you're still, after all these years, still training people and coaching them, mentally, physically, emotionally, everything. And I mean, I say when you're a coach, you're more than just a coach. You're a therapist some days, and you're a sounding board some days. I want to talk about some of your journey as a coach, because you've been to a lot of different levels of coaching, because CrossFit progressed so much in that span from when you started.
Oh my God, yeah.
Do you remember some of these early days of why did you start coaching, and what it was like to actually be like, hey, I'm not doing this as a side gig. This is my job. I'm doing this morning, afternoon, night, weekends. I'm really doing this as a career to make money and pave a path for myself. Can you reflect on some of that the why you started and kind of comparing it to what you are now as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was always into fitness and working out, and CrossFit came about, and all of a sudden, like, it made working out fun. Like, it was actually fun. Not that I hated working out, I always enjoyed working out, but it was this excitement about working out. So, CrossFit was so transformative in the fitness industry. Even it still is today. I think a lot of things like Orange Theory like kind of spawned from CrossFit and the group fitness experience, but CrossFit just became so fun, and it just was what I did. And we opened the gym. It wasn't really planned, and it kind of just happened, and we went with it. And in the beginning, it was a lot of teaching ourselves, because I didn't know how to snatch myself.
Yeah.
You go to a 2-day seminar at level 1, you're like, you can open a gym. You're like, okay, here's how to snatch, guys. Meanwhile, I was just ripping the barbell off the ground, trying to get off my head with no technique. But there was also really nothing to learn from. There was no YouTube videos. It was hard to find instruction on that. So a lot of it was, teaching myself in order to teach people better. So a lot of it was just exploring, within myself. Okay, well, how do I translate this to somebody else? What am I feeling? Then a couple seminars would pop up, so you were able to like take some instruction from actual Olympic weightlifters.
Right.
But I just always liked movement. Before CrossFit, I was a yoga instructor, so I did that for about 2 years, and that was just my workout, was yoga. I just know how important movement is, and I just wanted to translate that to other people and show people how to move and feel better. And then again, like, CrossFit was fun. Like, there's guys who joined Brazen, their wives were like, I can't believe he's taking a group fitness class. And it's a group fitness class, but it's not like step aerobics. So it was just a whole new way of working out, and I just kind of wanted to share that with as many people as wanted to come and try it.
Now you've had different roles as a coach, right? Like, you were the one of the primary coaches, first coaches at Brazen, and at some point you start training other coaches, right? What is it like to be the main show? You are the coach, and then you have to start now training other people to coach. Do you take some of these experiences, like these lessons learned, the mistakes that you've made as a coach? How much of that did you put into training other coaches? Because at some point, that's something you had to do, right? You had to start training other coaches, and that's huge.
Yeah.
What was the differences? What were some of the similarities between that?
I mean, I would just kind of take what I learned and what I messed up on, and
learn from mistakes.
Learn from mistakes. So if I can fast track them, learning from the mistakes that I made, and just translate the stuff that worked to them, it would help them obviously learn a little bit quicker. Just walking around class and saying, I used to do this, but don't do this because of this. So in case they want to think about doing it, this is why I don't do it anymore. So it was really just like learning from my mistakes as a coach, and what worked and what didn't work, and translating what worked, to them, so they can use what worked as opposed to what didn't work. And, I'm sure they'll learn on their own along the way what works and didn't work. But that was like my best. We didn't have like a rule book or a handbook, or, you have to put in certain floor hours. It was just kind of case by case. But yeah, I would say learning from my mistakes and translating what worked to the new coaches is probably the best way.
What was more difficult? Training people new to CrossFit, teaching them CrossFit, or teaching coaches how to coach others? Like, what do you think is, I don't want to say easier or harder.
Yeah.
What did you enjoy more?
I think that's a good question. I think I enjoyed teaching the coaches more, because it was just another person that can like share the love, spread the knowledge.
Yeah.
So, and they already had a good foundation of movement. Like, we obviously picked people who could move well,
Right.
because they're, able to translate that better. So starting to having them look at it from a different eye, from a different angle, even just from sitting in the corner and watching class, I thought was really cool. And then you kind of see their brains working differently, and then and then they get really into helping people. So I think I got a lot of enjoyment from seeing someone go from athlete to coach,
Right.
and then enjoying helping somebody else like move better. So
Yeah, that's a huge part of looking back on your coaching career is you start off as, hey, teaching myself. I'm the expert. Now you're doing this to other people, but you actually in turn probably end up learning from other coaches.
100%.
Like Sam, how about you with your thoughts on you started coaching at Bison after we had grown to a certain level. Like we were not a small gym when you started coaching.
Right.
So in some ways, in my opinion, it's easier to start coaching when the classes are small. You got 3-4 people, you can give them a lot of attention. Now I look at Tara, Keith, Krista now, like they come in, new coaches at Bison, they got 18 people in class.
Oh, the logistics are crazy.
It's like a different level of, it's like a different kind of.
That was one of the hardest things to sort of get your head around as a new coach is the logistics.
Right.
Like, where do you assign lanes? Like, how tall is this person? Like, how do you partner this person up? All of that. And then, like, the timing of everything. Like, how can you make sure you like, my first, I would say, month, I ran over so many times because I just didn't know how to shut up. I didn't know how to move, the athletes through things quickly and to focus on what was necessary. And you fall in love with your lesson plan and you're like, oh, this is going to be like the best warm up and all this. And then, so yeah, there's just a tremendous learning curve when you have to move through 3 classes in the morning. The parking is a situation where, like, if you don't get them out on time, everyone's like bunched up.
They get pissed off and
They get mad. And so absolutely, I think the newer coaches now have a very big cup to fill when they're first learning.
Yeah. I think that's one of major thing I said to new coaches. I was like, honestly, this is mostly logistics.
It does.
Like teaching the movements is easy. The clock, the music,
like
all the logistics. The modifications and the technology not working and
yes.
not freaking out about it and just playing it cool.
Yes.
But
logistics is having a happy face on.
Yeah.
Your core value as a coach, because I kind of want to blend these next two together, right? Like you have been involved in a lot of different methodologies. And I think the more versatile a coach is, like even to this day, I bet your yoga background helps you with a lot of training.
100%.
And then the CrossFit and maybe some of your sport background growing up, right? Was it snowboarding?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of coordination and body awareness with this. Like, how important is it for you as a coach and any coach out there that is trying to get better to take all of these past experiences? It could be physically and mentally too. It could be test taking, honestly. It could be a lot of the stuff that trying to advance in education. Are you ever present with that? How much those experiences, yoga, snowboarding, your early days of CrossFit help you right now with what you're doing, which we'll get into in a few minutes.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like a little overwhelming because I'm trying to fit all these things that I've learned into like programming now, and I see something online, I'm like, oh, I totally forgot I used to do that. Like there's so many different disciplines in my mind. So I think for me, it's tough to narrow it in with, like I said, sometimes I just forget about certain movements or certain stretches, and you're like, I forgot about that. And so I need to it's hard to reel it all in to a precise programming.
Are you still doing yoga? How does that work in your life right now?
Yeah, I need to do more yoga. I'm not gonna lie. That's been one of my goals to try to get to some more classes. I'll do a little just like stretching, like 15-minute on my own, but I can work out on my own. I have no problem, but it's tough for me to do yoga on my own. Like I need a class. I need someone to tell me what to do for that specifically. So I do need to get into it more, but I do some with my clients, and especially just some stretches, like, maybe not necessarily a class, but like some important stretches that I've learned from yoga that can benefit them, whether it's their hips or their shoulders. So I do kind of pieces of it, I would say now, but I'm going to put that out there that I need to get to some more yoga classes.
Accountability.
Yeah, I do miss it. I miss it, and it's great, and I think everyone should be doing yoga in some form.
Yeah, that's yoga is. I think the older you get, the more you realize you should do it.
Mhm.
But it's like,
Should do it.
should I do it? Like, yes. Like I every now and then, like, I'm getting more like muscle strains when I do like a simple thruster. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're just, and then you go get some treatment. The guy goes, you're really tight back here, and like weird areas, like your traps or your low back. I'm like, I've never had low back issues. Well, you're not 25.
Yeah, well.
You want to get ahead of it and stay ahead of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sports performance. You also coach at Montclair State.
Mm-hmm.
Train, I should say train. at
Yes,
Montclair
yes,
State.
I
What
train
do you
as
do
well.
there? Is it still to this day?
Yep.
Okay. So
Mhm.
what do you train at Montclair State? Because I kind of want to touch into that as well.
Yeah, so I'm the strength and conditioning coach for the swim team at Montclair State for about 9 years. I think I just burned my ninth.
Awesome. That's pretty real.
Just
That's really
flying.
key. Yeah.
Just finished my 9th season with them. So they have a full gym, the athlete gym, that and luckily there's lots of machines, but there's also squat racks and dumbbells. So yeah, so I do really just like basic strength with them, not too much conditioning. I mean, they swim their asses off, so I get plenty of conditioning. And for them, it's really a matter of just taking care of their shoulders because
Okay.
their shoulders
Very
just
shoulder
take a
focused.
beating. Yeah. So, just kind of being mindful of what we do for shoulders, really a lot of stability work. But other than that, it's your basic, barbell lifts, power lifts.
So what would be a
Olympic lifts.
typical workout for the on a Tuesday for your Montclair State swim team?
Yeah, so we do like an AB week. So Monday would either be squatting or deadlifting, and then Wednesday it's typically push press or bench press, I believe. So we do this kind of typical strength sets. We start with like a 6x6 or 5x5, and then as the weeks progress, we go, 6x4, 7x3. And then we kind of see how they feel as far as maxing out, but it's always fun for them. They're young and they want to get a number. And then the second part's kind of just like a full body mixture, depending. It's a little tight there for space. There's dumbbells, but there's not like 20-pound dumbbells for everybody. So we kind of have to like do stations. So the programming logistics, right? It's a little different.
Good thing you're experienced there.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I bet your CrossFit experience helped that out.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
100%. Yeah.
Like when I work out with my brothers, I usually bring up dumbbells, kettlebells if we all four to get together, and I bring up a kettlebell and 2 dumbbells.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, like just
Gotta
rotate
figure
it,
it out.
stay
Yeah,
right,
just
rest,
rotate
all that
stations.
stuff. Yeah.
And you can still get a lot done. So, but yeah, I would say it's, CrossFit minus super high intensity, minus snatching, minus, kipping pull-ups. and
You're not
dumbbell
doing like
stuff.
grace with them, right?
No,
Or you're not doing
yeah.
like 4-time workout. Do you ever do stuff like that? Like
Not really, just because the format usually is like an AMRAP style. But
Yeah.
CrossFit's like will always be a part of me. So, I do a lot of the rep schemes. Different
that's right.
rep
That's cool.
schemes.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to do a 3x10, 3x10, 3x10. Like, that's just so boring. So I still want to make it fun, even though it's not like the intensity of CrossFit or Grace or Fran.
How coachable are these athletes? Because they're pretty high level in swimming, but
Yeah.
then like coaching in something else, like are they coachable?
Yes, during my time, this is probably last team is, I would say, the strongest, most coachable team. Like
awesome.
in the beginning, I don't know, what changed, or obviously they got different athletes in, but the first couple years, it was like a squat was tough to teach. But they have progressed as athletes, and I've seen 2 classes go through from like freshmen to seniors already. So it's a whole different group of kids. So I don't know if younger athletes are just getting stronger. I don't know if it's swimming specific or they're just recruiting better. But over the years, the team has become much more coachable, much stronger coming in, even though it's new kids. Like by their senior year, they know what they're doing. But
Maybe
yeah.
it's you. Honestly, like you probably wouldn't want to say this, but maybe it's like you have set a foundation there, a culture there, that it's just like expectation there. That's a thing. I think that's part of what made Brazen successful. Like that, you knew what you were getting when you went there. Like you knew what you were getting when you saw them. You knew what you were getting when you were starting to train there. And I think it takes time though. It takes years.
Yeah.
To build a culture.
Yeah.
You had a culture at Brazen. Is there a culture in that kind of environment? Because it's different, right? They're not paying to come work
Yeah.
out with you. They kind of have to.
Yeah. So it's definitely different. And the Monday morning 6 a.m. session, no college kid is happy at 6 a.m. on a Monday morning.
That's tough. That's tough for you and for them.
In their defense, they do get up early on the other days to swim. But yes, there's definitely a difference when someone pays and voluntarily goes somewhere, or when someone is forced to do something. So there is that part of the group that like slacks off, and you really have to kind of like get them going. But there's a lot of hard workers, and you hope that the hard workers, less hard workers see the hard workers and they can motivate them. But yeah, there's always the handful like, oh, I have to sit down. Like, yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah.
I go to the bathroom. Yeah, I go to the bathroom. All right.
Gotta go to the vet.
I know I'm taking 12-pound dumbbell kettlebells out of guys' hands. I was like, guys, 12 pounds, like put it back. It's like the size of a paper. I mean, so there's definitely a lot of that happens. But there's also the people who really, take it seriously and get after it. And honestly, those are the people who are breaking the pool records, who are going, to the NJACs and making it to the NCAAs. And the people who work hard in the gym are the ones that are putting up the better times over the season.
Wouldn't you love to be a strength and training coach for athletes like that? I think that's something you would really love to do.
I think so. I think that's something that would be fun. I'm getting like, now Brock starts flag football in the fall and everyone's like, are you going to coach? I'm like, not this year.
What do you take them through strength and training workouts at age 6?
Yeah, I know. Seriously. I mean, Brock is. Brock comes in here.
It's videos.
He's trying to figure out what kettlebells he can't move yet. We're already up to the pink one. But no, I think there is a definite pull towards coaching. I don't know about strength and conditioning coaching or actual coaching on the field.
Oh,
I think I have more fun in the latter there. But I do, echoing what her thoughts, there's more people coming into college now, just more physically capable.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are lifting earlier now. And I think there's just much more, like CrossFit, the strength and conditioning field is becoming much more widely educated and known because of technology and YouTube and Instagram. Like, it's easy to learn about.
Yeah,
training
there's more resources out there.
And they're good resources and visual, and kids love visuals, right? They're not going to go read. So I think that's going to be something that I want then when Brock and his buddies start training, 5-10 years, like I want it to be taught correctly. And if you want to take control of it, yeah, maybe I could see myself doing that at some point. But I just think that I love how Christy's coaching career is general fitness for the people that are trying to live healthy and happy lives, but also for people that are training at a high level to break records in a pool. I think that's a really cool blend because I do think the best coaches can do both. And, we've talked about this all the time here. Like, you should be able to coach competitive athletes right now that are still slinging weight behind us and the people that haven't worked out in 6 years. If you're a good coach, you should be able to do both.
Yeah.
And not make them feel like they are, bad or too good. That brings me to, what is your core value as a coach? Like, what is if I had to say one thing, what is your core value? What is it?
Just integrity. Just not operating with integrity. And that was always my business philosophy too. Just not being a fitfluencer on Instagram, like selling bullshit, like doing some dumb, gimmicky, like just staying away from all that. Just really like wanting to help people and just helping people with what they need. And honestly, if somebody comes to me and they need something different, I'm not going to take them as a client. Like, I'm probably not the right person for you. So just generally wanting to help people. And again, not being gimmicky, not trying to sell something and like buy this program for $99, do this exercise and it's going to like change your life, because there's no exercise that's going to, it might be fun, but it won't change your life. Just kind of staying true to really just what works, basics, helping people feel better.
So you don't have like a toning program?
I was thinking about starting one.
You guys are just talking about...
Ask if you want to be in on it with me. Can you honest toning?
Toning by Christy.
Just tone with Christy.
So do conditioning.
If you ever see that, just please kill me.
So you guys were talking about before we started that there was someone who was like starting a toning program or something like that?
Yeah, it was a conversation I had with a client who went to a group fitness gym, not CrossFit, and he left because he wanted to get strong. And the heaviest dumbbell they had was 25, and this guy's 6'5". He's a big dude, so he's strong anyway. And they had an exit interview with him over the phone, and the guy's like, "Well, I want to get stronger. I want to, I want to lift weights." And they're like, "Well, we're a toning gym," and he's like, I'm like, well, if you were a toning gym, then you'd be lifting weights.
Yes.
So
heavy weights.
Yeah, it's just like, that is funny. The word tone drives me nuts.
It's an 80s term.
Yeah, and it's,
What is your core, like, compared to Christy, what would your core value be then?
I would say core value as a coach is simply just trying to like almost dive into feeling their results, like being in touch with them, like emotionally, like I'm all about physical gains and people dropping fat, adding muscle, toning, or increasing scores and work capacity. But I'm big into how it makes you feel about yourself. And I feel like you have to feel those things with them as they go. So I really feel like, and I don't know if there's terminology behind that, of, hey, I want to be actually in tune like with your feelings. I want to feel them as well when we're talking about them, because I think at the end of the day, that is what gets people to come back. That's what gets people back to the North Star. It's like, what is your North Star? It's like how I feel, and it doesn't need to be what I look like, unless that is what that your goal is. I'm all about that if that's your goal. But like right now, like I'm starting to get into like more competitive training, and I feel better. I'm happier. I feel like I have a North Star that answers questions for me when I'm by myself. I have to make a good decision or a bad decision with a drink, with food, with my sleep. And it just makes me feel like more of like a complete person type. And that's what I want to feel that for others, because I think when you're in tune with that as a coach, it makes both of you better. Like I can't tell you how many times I feel like athletes have made me better because of their work ethic and their consistency and their communication. So that's like my core values. I want to feel what they're feeling, because it kind of rises everyone up. I want to get into this golf training because I can't get my freaking handicap down. And no, but I really, golf to me, I was talking about this with guys last night. It was on TV at a bar, and it's getting huge now. I just feel like the popularity of CrossFit is much bigger than it was. And I think social media is part of it, like all these YouTube channels and influencers. And it just seems like there's more guys and girls playing golf now, like on a routine basis.
Yeah, I feel like in
than
the past
ever.
couple months
Yeah.
I've seen that. Yeah.
And I think Christy's onto something with really getting into, like, I don't know many physical trainers that are really trying to train people for golf. And I know there's other elements to it that we'll get into, but I think it's like a really cool thing, because we have a lot of golfers here at the gym. Like we do these outings here and we get like 30 guys sometimes.
We have some really good golfers in
Yeah.
there. Yeah, really good.
And it's the best golfers, like, no offense, guys, they're not the strongest or the best for end times here, but they're fit. There's a lot of fitness involved in golf. And I really want to dive into what pulled you in that direction as maybe one of your next possible destinations as a coach.
I think someone just kind of mentioned it to me, honestly. Like after,
right.
I took a couple of months just downtime and, kind of contemplating life and figuring out what my next step was. And I think someone just might have said, what about golf fitness? And I'm like, duh, like, yeah.
There's a lot to it. There's a lot. And it's
Yeah.
not just like the movement pattern and the strength. Like a lot of the guys, the strongest guys I know, they don't hit the ball the furthest.
Yeah.
It's actually a lot of guys that are smaller that crush the ball, but they're just coordination, accuracy, all that stuff. And a lot of these foundational CrossFit things. Where do you start if someone says, hey, like I want to train for my golf season, whether it's stamina, mobility? What is like one of your go-tos as you watch, and you're a player as well, avid player. What is your go-to for someone like, all right, this is where we need to start with someone that wants to use fitness to get better at golf?
I start first at mobility. So I do, if it's a TPI screen, it's a 15-point movement assessment, kind of testing everything from your ankles to your neck mobility.
Sweet.
You start there and just pretty much seeing if there's any physical restrictions. And this is done like cold, no warm up, just, can you touch your toes type thing. So that just checks the full body, hip rotation, left and right. And we see if there's any mobility restrictions in there. Because I think that, strength and fitness and mobility, it's like they're both good, but I think mobility might just edge out in the golf game, strength and fitness, because you need to move. You need the golf swing is so unnatural, and it requires literally mobility in every joint of your body, like from your ankles to your neck. It's wild when you really break it down. So we look at that first, and I usually start most people just on a mobility routine, and then depending where they are, like some people are starting from zero fitness, right, from not working out. So I would start them somewhere different than someone else who came to me who's actually does CrossFit on his own in another state, and he does an online program with me. So I started him at a different space because he wanted to specifically learn how to create more power in a swing. So I'd start him kind of in a different space, moving like more towards like building power and how to translate a power clean. Like, what do you think about when you're doing a power clean, even a back squat, like what you can think about doing that in your golf swing. So it's like the mental connection of the two also, as well as just the physical connection of, a power clean. So yeah, it depends like, where they are in the fitness world, but I always start with just a mobility assessment on that.
I mean, it makes sense to me because your golf swing is what dictates your score, basically. Like repeatability, like
Really?
your technique. So you repeat, like, can you repeat that, 70, 100, 150 times on a
Yeah.
golf course and be accurate with your golf swing. So I've seen people with terrible golf swings, but they're very repeatable and they can actually hit.
Yeah.
So knowing what your mobility is will dictate how far can you take your backswing.
Exactly.
What is your hip motion
Mhm.
like? And it will actually probably dictate what a golf pro will say in terms of you need to bring your left hip around first, or you need to get your left knee set. So the mobility part is the most important. The strength part, yes, like you will see a Bryson DeChambeau bulk up and then suddenly add 20 or 30 yards to his driver. But I guarantee you, when you go to the golf course, you see like 4 really muscular guys go up to the tee. What do you think their golf skill is going to be? Like,
Yeah, like
probably not so good. Like, I can almost guarantee
Yeah.
they're going to be terrible. So strength doesn't translate most times into golf ability. But that being said, durability is probably one of the biggest things you work with your golfers, because like you said, it's such a weird, unnatural motion.
Yeah.
And that hip rotation, and you see all these golfers, like especially pro golfers over time, they break down a
Yeah.
lot and they have a lot of issues. So I would say, what is it that you do in your training to help golfers prevent injury,
Yeah.
be durable, be able to play 1836 a day for like 3 days
Mhm.
and not like totally destroy themselves?
Yeah, and for the people who currently don't work out, that's the first thing I say to them. I'm like, you're repeating this swing. You're doing the same thing all day, like the same thing, to a different extent. And if you're walking and carrying a bag, it's, a completely different game. So I think just building a solid, nothing that's crazy, the stuff that you guys do, just solid fitness foundation, solid strength foundation. So you can, walk the 18 holes and then so you don't have the breakdown in the swing when you get tired and then you're doing weird stuff and then your back is moving weird or your shoulder's moving weird or, your elbow's coming out. So, yeah, just being able to, it's, you're out there for 4.5 hours. Like it's not an intense endurance, but it's still a form of endurance that you need to, get through around. Mentally is a whole different conversation, but physically, so the stronger their physical base is, just, your basic lifts, like your squat, your bench, your power lift, your power clean.
What hurts the most after you finish a round of golf?
My soul.
Yeah, we can do it. We should do another podcast on that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is there a mental training?
Yeah.
I will tell you, I think there's, I golfed on Monday and like, I was just telling Christy, it was a scramble. And usually in scrambles, I kind of go for it more because, you get one ball in the fairway, you just go for it. And it's like, you have some of your best drives. Like, wow, if I could do that every time. But I did have in my right lat, it was actually bothering me yesterday at the comp. There was one swing, I know exactly what happened. Like I really like recoiled and just went for it. And like I had like a little bit of a strain in my lat, and I've never had that before. I've never hurt anything playing golf other than one time I hit the ground way too hard and hurt my wrist.
Yeah.
You hit like a root or something under a tree. And I was thinking, it's just ironic that Christy was going to come this day on that. And I was thinking like that rotational strength and ability, that's one thing we don't do a lot of.
I was about to say, we don't do a lot of rotational
almost
movements.
none, to be honest with you. And that is a hole, and it could be me as a programmer, like that we should find ways to get some rotational strength in. And I want to ask, because I know I've videotaped my golf swing just like I videotape a snatch sometimes, right? And I think it looks some way that looks completely different.
I hate that.
But one thing I've noticed that a lot of golfers do that I don't know if I'm capable of is that finishing, like that follow through, like that really full turn, rotational strength, because I just can't. It's not there. And if I try, like I did last Monday, something gets hurt because it's not there. That mobility is not there. Like I've spent all this time mobilizing hips and knees and thoracic for my overhead positions, but rotational, it's not there. And it looks terrible on tape. Like it's like you can't turn. And that's where these big muscular guys getting to a tee box, you pretty much know it's going to happen. And it looks awful. Like it's a terrible, ugly looking swing because you just can't rotate. And I think that's something that it needs to absolutely be trained if you want to reach your peak in golf.
How do you do that?
Yeah, so I was, really, there's golf fitness is not reinventing the wheel. It's adding stuff like rotation, anti-rotation, and really just watching your intensity and volume throughout the week, because you don't want to max you out. You deadlift and play golf the next day. Like, not a smart move. Or do Fran even. Like, I can't walk after Fran, so I'm not going to do Fran if I'm playing tomorrow. So rotation, anti-rotation is huge. Rotation also just, again, in mobility, like stretching, like separating the shoulders and the hips, and, spending 3 minutes in a stretch that, is working towards that. So that's definitely, and, a lot of, and maybe this is your inspiration to incorporate some of that into the Bison program, because it's a plane of motion that is often forgotten about. Rotation and even side bending. There's two things that most programs just kind of forget about, but are super important. I mean, we obviously twist and turn, in our daily life. We just don't do it with like force and load, like a golf swing, unless you're a baseball player or something. But it's still a really important plane of motion. So that's one thing that in golf fitness, we want to make sure we train, but again, also mobilize, because, it's the give and take that, you strengthen the muscle, it can get tighter. So we need to make sure we also are able to keep it nice and loose, so we don't go too far in our backswing and tweak our lats.
I'm trying to imagine a training program, and the only thing I can think of would be like taking a wall ball and like throwing it, like rotating and throwing it again.
Brush and twist a little bit. Like, do you throw those in?
Yeah, even a lot of band work, like pale off press. I'm not sure if I can say that word right. Pale off. With a lot of band work with rotation. They make some fancy like tools you can use now, but like anti-rotational, like a plank drag, or even just like a plank march, where you're, you're resisting the urge to rotate while still translating on those rotation muscles. Landmines, and landmines are great. Good old landmine twist. Brush and twists are great. Even just like a push press with rotation. There's a lot of places you kind of add it in, like once you start thinking about it. But a really important plane of movement, and again, the side bend too, that a lot of people or a lot of programs just kind of forget about. But I think it's super important for everyone to train that range of motion, especially in golfers.
Yeah, and it can go beyond golfers too. Like I think it's really important to, again, just widen the way. Like being versatile as an athlete, I think is huge. Like, you don't want to just be a specialist, especially if you're here for fitness.
And most sports have some aspect of rotation. Even if you're not swinging a club, like basketball, you're like weaving side to side. So most sports do have some. You're throwing a football. There's a rotational aspect to that. So going to add some into programming at Bison.
Now, if you have someone that is rotationally strong and they do have a nice swing, because I know you're not necessarily teaching people how to play golf. Right?
Yeah,
you're not coaching.
Not a swing coach.
Yeah, right.
Make that very clear.
It's an accessory.
I need a swing coach.
Right.
Absolutely.
If anyone knows anyone.
Yeah.
If someone does have like the basics down, a good swing, and they're mobile, but they want to use you in your training for, I want to literally hit the ball further, because the game is getting longer now. And I think that's just natural with anything, sports as they develop. Like some of these par fives that I see on TV, I'm like, is this 600 yards?
Yeah, it's insane.
But
they've talked about like making a specific ball. Have you heard about that?
No.
In the pros?
No.
It's like a lower flight ball, because they're hitting the ball so far.
Oh, yes.
And these courses, they can't stretch the courses anymore. Like, their courses are the courses, and the tee boxes can't go any back anymore. So I don't know if it's going to happen, but there was talk about that like last year.
I just remember I watched Tiger Woods grow up, and I remember his body changed so much as his career went. Like, he got yoked at one point.
And
you could tell.
He was kind of the pioneer of like, okay, you guys should work out, play golf. Yeah.
Are there certain movements, certain modalities that you kind of say, like, all right, if you want to hit the ball further because everything else is good, but you do want to lengthen the game, like, are there go-to movements that you would prescribe?
Yeah, and it kind of comes back to the basics, like your power lifts and your Olympic lifts.
Yep.
It's not crazy stuff. It's not like standing on a Bosu ball, holding a stick attached to a bungee and twisting. It's like generating leg power, like making sure your back is strong, like making sure your lats are strong. So it's basic strength stuff. It's not really reinventing the wheel, especially if somebody has a good swing, doesn't really have mobility issues, and just needs to get stronger. Your squat, hinge, push, pull, rotate is really where you start, and you assess their strength where they're at, and kind of program accordingly to where they're at.
Do you see? Have you seen what the pro golfers do, or do you steal or incorporate any of what their training is? Like, what do you think about Rory McIlroy and his training program and what his strength training is like?
Yeah, I mean, they're all like a little bit different, but also a little bit similar. And I think it's really interesting the fact that some of these guys will do a full-on workout before like a competitive match, a tournament. Like,
is that good?
if it works for them, I mean, I know Dustin Johnson like does a full blown workout before, he goes out and competes. Charlie Hull runs a 5K every day.
A 5K?
That's what she says.
Wow.
That's what Instagram says. I don't know.
That must be true.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, that doesn't mean to say we have to go do that, but essentially whatever sport we're doing, whether it's CrossFit or golf, like we look at what the professionals do in both aspects, and we just do a little bit of watered down version, right? So maybe you don't run a 5K, maybe you jog a mile to loosen up. Maybe you don't do a 5x5 back squat, but maybe you just do some light squats or to loosen your body up. So if it works, if it works, obviously it works for them. They're playing on tours,
Right?
They're doing something right. But I think just like you taking that philosophy, like this is what these guys are doing. It's okay to lift heavyweight. Like you're not going to get too big to be able to swing a golf club. There's a lot of awareness about how important it is. And again, you don't have to do exactly what they're doing, but like do a watered down version, like work on getting stronger, like maybe loosen up a little bit more before your round instead of sitting at your desk all day and then going right to the first tee and like trying to hammer a driver, like that's where you're going to get hurt. So, but yeah, they all have kind of different routines. Like I definitely like look at movements, I'm like, oh, that's a good one. Or I'm like, I don't know about that one. But yeah, I kind of always just peek around to see what they're doing. But it's interesting that they all are kind of different, but there's a lot of similarities too. And listen, they're all squatting and deadlifting. It's not, they're power cleaning. They're doing, the basic stuff, and then they're adding, some rotational. And guys at that level probably have like more tools and equipment to really, train their plane of the swing, their actual swing, which, at that level they'll have that more fine tuned. But
do you do anything in terms of outside of just strength training, like counseling them on nutrition or like other parts of their life in terms of optimizing them?
Yeah, 100%. Which for a golfer is kind of difficult because it's definitely a drinking game, right?
Yeah. I actually don't like drinking when I play golf.
You don't?
I don't.
Really?
I don't. I just don't.
It just seems like it's such part of the culture. Like if you're not having something,
I don't know.
Really?
I just don't like
Because
I'm not anti-drinking, and I don't look down on anyone that does it during a round, but I just don't. That's not where I want to have a drink.
when you played on Monday, were people drinking?
No, I was with my dad. No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think for me, I just like, I really want to, I'm trying to play well every time I go out there.
Yeah.
And one little sip and it's all over.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Start
I'll
seeing
eat
4 balls.
after. Like again, I love that.
Some of these guys have like 7 transfusions.
Yes. There's people at the club we play at that I don't know if they can play sober. It's it's wild. I'm like, how are you so good? 6 transfusions in. I'm just trying to do this.
Far there.
Yeah, so it's wild. But yeah, so I do macro coaching with some people and just like, general like, are you drinking water?
Yeah. Honestly, it's a long time.
Yeah,
in the
it's
sun.
a lot of the basics,
Yeah.
and what are you eating during the day? It's a long, if you see Rory, he's chugging protein
Yeah.
shakes.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
God bless him, his stomach can handle that. But he
Yeah.
all day he's just shake bar, like
Mhm.
it's awesome, So you need the stamina. So yes, I definitely work with some people like with macros or just like kind of just giving them general advice. Because if you want to, perform better, you got to recover better. Whether it's on the course or in the gym. So
Anything performance based, and I know not everyone that golfs is like a competitive golfer, but most people I golf with do get frustrated every time they play golf because they're not performing, right? Anything performance based, recovery needs to be a part of your thought, your ethos. And I do think 4 to 4.5 hours is a really long time in the sun where you're not like I've had this, like you go to the turn, you get a sandwich, and you immediately just feel like, all right, I got some energy back.
Yeah.
So there probably does need to be some thought into the stamina endurance factor that centers around your ability to recover, and ability to recover very much has to do with hydration and eating. And but in regard to stamina endurance, that's a hard thing to train, but it should be trained, because I know a lot of people that are good at golfers, but they're just not in good shape. 2 hours in, they just get tired.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how are you tired? Like you're literally driving the car to your ball, but people walking up and down in hills and looking for their ball in the woods. Or, I mean, God forbid, if you are walking on the course, that can absolutely wear you out.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have a caddy. But how much of that should people how much thought should people put into getting their conditioning better, their endurance better? Because I feel like that gets neglected by a lot, because honestly, it sucks to train. It takes a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, golf can usually has been considered a leisurely sport. So it's really not, oh, I got to train to play golf. This is like a recreational leisurely sport. But like you're saying, it's 4 hours. It's like, it's a lot.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
a
long
long
time.
day. And depending how much you're walking. And yeah, it's really just getting people on a routine,
Yeah.
even just getting stronger is going to help your endurance.
Absolutely.
So,
Everything more
just
efficient.
going for more walks, like outside of playing golf is going to help. So, just really the more you can improve your general fitness, the more better your endurance will be on the course,
Do you train men and women differently, or is it sort of the same for each gender in terms of golf training, or is it just completely customized to the individual and gender doesn't make any difference?
Yeah, I would say it's completely customized. Gender doesn't really make a difference. It really just depends where they're at, like what they need more, whether it's mobility, whether it's strength, or whether they're just starting off, whether they've been working out. So it's really just like a case by case basis. But really, good question for sure.
Do you have you been picking up on any trends? Like, it's not been a long time of doing this, but have you picked up on like, ooh, these, we just talked about trends as we grow out last over here. Like, all right, we're hearing this over and over. Let's put some thought and attention to it. Are there any things that you're picking up on yet that you are seeing kind of like, all right, this is a bit of a trend. This is common. Let's put a little bit more thought into this.
As far as golf goes?
Yeah, with training golfers.
Yeah. I've seen in good trends and bad trends. I see the gimmicky trends, where people are just trying to sell like some stick that'll help you improve.
Right.
Or some, magic. Oh, I have the magic drill you'll give me 7 strokes less and instant play. Just do it in 10 minutes. They're like, really?
Ooh, what was that? Okay, we're good. Yeah.
So there's that, like, I would say more of like a negative trend, but there's also a trend, with some bigger golf trainers out there that they're saying train like an athlete.
Okay.
They're doing functional fitness. They're doing, the powerlifting, Olympic lifts, and
That's cool.
and they're adding rotation. So there is a lot of that going on, saying that like you need to get stronger. You're not going to get too strong for your own good. Like it's very hard to get too strong for your own good. So there is, which I think is a positive thing. There's more golf fitness out there. There's more, accounts. There's more programs. There's online programs. There's facilities, and they're functional fitness. They're, it's trained like an athlete, just like a football player, and then
totally.
you just kind of, your basis of training is the same as a football player. And then you just kind of tweak the skill levels on top,
What is your golf game like? So are you someone who,
I know who can talk about that.
because I mean,
It's not on the outline.
The outline.
It's just because I would imagine these people, like, obviously you are very fit. You look really fit. So like when a client comes to you, they're like, oh yeah, you look really fit. But then some of them might be like, oh yeah, but like, what's your handicap?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's a little stressful situation for me, I'm not gonna lie. So I started older. I started as an adult. My husband got me into it. And I knew nothing about golf like when I was growing up. So I took lots of lessons. Shout out to Tyler Hall. I still take lessons with him.
See.
So it's gotten better. I'm a 17 right now. I hover between like 17, 18, which I think is like manageable.
Yeah,
know,
bogey golf is,
Yeah,
yeah, that's real golf. Yeah.
So, I feel like I know enough, and I know enough about the swing, or I can, someone doesn't look at me and like, oh my God, looking for swing. I'm not listening to her. So, I feel like I can hold my own on the golf course. And, but yeah, it's the game. It's a crazy game,
It's like, well, Sam, it's like coaching CrossFit. It's like, are you a games athlete?
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
no, but like I could still teach it,
Yeah,
coach
I
it,
still do it. Yeah.
and you move well and you put time on it. Because again, I think the example you set is more important than what your handicap is. to be honest with
Exactly.
you.
Yeah.
Last part here. Because golf, we all know this, is very much in between the ears. Now, yes, you
Oh,
need
yeah.
to know how to swing. It helps to be strong and stable and durable. I like that word, Sam. You need to have good endurance. Is it, like, I don't even know, do you go into that? Because I get into some of the thinking, the mental process of CrossFit when I coach people. I
Mhm.
absolutely do. But it's hard because that has more to do with like grit and focus,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's hard to teach grit on the golf course. Like, have you dived into that or not really yet?
Not really, but it's a really interesting point, and I use this example a lot. Is that it's like a game where you can't really try harder,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
if you and I were in a for competition, and you're rowing next to me, and I'm here, and I see you going faster, I'm gonna try harder. I'm gonna
Yeah.
pull faster, just physically pull faster,
and you'll do better.
Yeah.
and you'll do better. You'll see like an immediate result, and your immediate result will go faster. But like you're sitting there over the ball, you can't try hard.
Oh,
Because you
that's why
almost have to try less.
Yeah,
Like so,
yeah.
it's really, yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. That's why you're like, oh, you're an athlete, you should be good at it. I'm like, yeah, but it's not like any other athletic sport I've ever played in my life. Like,
Yeah, we have a
slow moving, and yeah.
we have a mindfulness coach here, Rhee. He's come on a few times, and he actually works with a golf team at Columbia. His job there is to work with them mentally, the Columbia golf team. Some of them have done really well. And then I heard Rory McIlroy after the Masters talk about his mindfulness coach and how much, and like, again, a lot of it stems over process over results and don't worry too much about the result. But it's just funny how as golf becomes more popular, now the training becomes more popular. Maybe someone else out there, maybe yours is a lot of physical training. Maybe someone else there can really dive into some of the mental training.
100%.
Even for, again, we can be talking to the leisurely golfers, such as myself, like and yourself. Like you don't
have to be competitive.
Exactly.
Have a mental crisis.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone could have a mental crisis on the
Yeah.
Listen, when you get up to that first tee and the ranger and everyone else is waiting to watch you tee off, like, I mean, I've done a lot of CrossFit competitions. I've never felt that kind of pressure.
100%. Put me on the CrossFit competition floor. I'll be fine.
I will snatch this driver, but I am not gonna hit the ball.
Yeah, and it's just quiet, and it's like you're starting in this non-moving position, and it's really wild.
Usually what I do is I'll just be like, you know what? Let me just hit a terrible shot. Let any doubt of where I am in terms of as a golfer out the window. So then if I hit better afterwards, I'm like, oh, okay, he's not as bad as I thought he was going to be.
Start low.
As opposed, yeah.
Sometimes it's worse starting off good.
Right. If I stripe that driver by some god like forsaken chance, like then they'll be like, oh wait, I thought he was good, but he just like
What a disappointment.
yeah, he shanked everyone after that.
Yeah, and then it's the pressure of like playing with other people if they're not your friends like that. You're like, oh, what is he gonna think of my swing?
Yeah, I can hear Rhee's
So fun.
mind in my head right now just telling me about all the different things I would need to do to help myself in those situations.
But yeah, I mean, there's golf mindfulness coaches, there's golf therapists or sports therapists, and not just in golf, and any high level sport. Like, I'm sure there's way more between the ears than we think in even other sports.
Yeah, I just think help is out there for everyone, no matter what fitness program you're doing. And that's another thing that's growing, just like personal coaches, like business coaches, life coaches, relationship coaches, golf coach. Like I do think that's a huge thing of, one of the advantages of technology and social media is like there's just so much information out there. And like if you really want to dive into a deeper level and have a personal coach, I feel like you can find a coach for anything now.
Yeah, it's really true.
We have a member here that she's a fashion coach. Like she redoes people's wardrobes for like work and stuff. Like
Really?
men and women. Actually has more men clients than female that they just want to, they need help on. Like me, I have no idea if I have to go get a week's worth of business clothes, right? Like I would have no idea where to start.
Well, I think she could help you with your coaching clothes. Be like, okay, this outfit doesn't match. Those shorts.
I had one of those this week. Dave, you can't wear that together.
Got to set an example, Dave.
But yeah, let's wrap this up. Just like maybe all three of us, and we'll start with Christy. I want you to, just put a bow on all these experiences that you've had as a coach and athlete and person. How I want coaches to always know that as you live, you should be able to become a better coach. And I say that to everybody because experiences, to me, they make coaches better. And that's partially why I like coaches with experience. And we all start with 0 at some point. But when you're looking at, the quality of a coach and how much impact they're making, they can blend all these experiences that they've had over their entire life and improve their actual product. And I think that's something that you're doing right now on your own because you've had so many experiences. And I still think in 10 years from now, you're still in the game, you're going to be even better than you are now. But you have to be mindful of everything that you're going through now and write things down and journal or try to find a way to recall your feelings, emotions, and results as a coach.
Yeah.
So can you just, if you had a few coaches in front of you that just start off and they're sitting in front of you right now, what would you tell them to say like, hey, be mindful of this so that you can be a better coach in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think just, experience is your best teacher. So just don't be diverse and, don't turn down certain opportunities, or maybe if it's like out of your realm, maybe just check it out and learn a little bit about it because there could be a little piece that you can pull from a different discipline and bring it into your coaching. But don't be afraid to get out there and, the more you do, the more just different types of people. I think one of my biggest learning experiences was just literally working from 9-year-olds to like 75-year-olds, like just so many different types of diverse clients. So the more you can just get out there in front of different people in different environments, right? Like CrossFit gym here where you have plenty of equipment, or, you go to a gym where, okay, teach this class of 15 and here's 6 dumbbells. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
what do I do? So really putting yourselves in different environments and learning from that. And trying to remember it all down the road.
Yes.
Or I'm trying to remember all the things down the road. So maybe journaling, like writing down, like have a book of like things that really stuck out in your mind or that helped. But just experience is your best teacher. So don't be afraid to get out there.
So true. I know I'm a better coach this month than I was last month before that. You're right. At some point, that weight of accumulated experience in your head is just so much, but that's where it comes out intuitively. Like that's where you're no longer consciously thinking about it. You're almost automatically kind of guiding it through because like you don't specifically remember every experience, but it just kind of sits there. So you're like, oh yeah, okay. So this like, it's almost automatic at that point.
Very true.
And so you're right. I think the most experienced coaches, sometimes they can't even like tell you a specific experience why, but they just do it this way. And if you had to ask them, they wouldn't necessarily pull it out, but like it was all of this experience over time that intuitively gets them to the right spot. I mean, I think that's right for everything. Like, 10,000 hours, right? Like you're not asking that expert to like pull every specific experience out to get them to do what they're doing. It's just natural.
Yeah, it's just shape them at that point.
Yeah, and mine would be just don't be afraid of making mistakes, because I think the fear of making mistakes holds people back so much, because the feeling of making a mistake is awful, especially when it affects other people. But I also think that is what holds a lot of people back from actually reaching their potential. And whether it's ego-based, or they don't want to have a negative impact on other people, or they're just thinking about the moment. Like, I don't want to, but so many, I'm even like teaching Brock, a 5-year-old right now, like he gets angry about losing something, or like, you have to lose to win at some point. You have to make mistakes to learn at some point. The mistakes are the best way to learn. And you just don't want to keep repeating the mistakes. I think that's something that we need to be mindful of. But a coach that wants to reinvent themselves, a coach that wants to start something new, when you start something new, you are approaching an area where you're going to make mistakes because you haven't done it yet. And you have to not be afraid of that, because right now, Christy's the coach she is because she made mistakes and she learned from them. And I think I would say that about all three of us. And I think just take it from us that there's probably 30 plus years of experience sitting at this table with coaching people, that if you don't ever find yourself making mistakes, you're probably not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you, Kristy Link. You guys can find her where? Where can you find us?
KristyLink.com. I'm at Clifton, New Jersey, or Kristy_Link at Instagram.
Cool. And we'll put that in the Instagram post. We'll get her information out there if you want an easier access to it. But give her a look. If you guys want any sort of golf training, personal training, it's just great person to reach out to. Even just getting some conversation coaching advice from her. I think if you have a conversation with her, you're going to get something really positive out of it. I always do. And I have a feeling this will not be the last time we see her.
All right.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.